The Supreme Court's response to the 16th presidential reference has stirred an intense federalism debate. While the court attempted a constitutional balancing act by stating that governors and the president cannot be subjected to rigid timelines or deemed assent, the judgment ultimately delivers a significant blow to the powers of elected state governments. The court held that imposing one-size-fits-all deadlines would breach separation of powers and that the judiciary cannot assume the role of the executive. However, this reasoning effectively grants governors the unchecked ability to delay or block state legislation without meaningful accountability. This marks a departure from the progressive April 2025 judgment that had enforced a 3-month timeline for governors and even granted deemed assent to certain Milnard bills using Article 142. The court argued that Articles 200 and 201 provide no explicit deadlines, dismissing the constitutional phrase "as soon as possible" as too elastic to justify enforceable timelines. This interpretation weakens the constitutional text designed to ensure prompt decision-making. Further, by suggesting that governors are not strictly bound by the aid and advice or the Council of Ministers, the court ignores the framers' intent. The Constituent Assembly had deliberately removed the phrase "in his discretion," which existed in the 1935 Act, signaling that governors must act on ministerial advice. Even expert bodies like the Sarkaria Commission had recommended a 6-month limit to prevent misuse. Although the court insisted that if a governor withholds assent, they must return the bill to the Assembly, the judgment significantly dilutes power of the legislature. Even after a second passage, the governor can still reserve the bill for the president, nullifying the Assembly's authority. Once a bill reaches the president, it can remain pending indefinitely since no timelines or mandatory consultations exist. The judgment also vaguely mentions that states may seek a limited mandamus for prolonged inaction but fails to define what qualifies as a reasonable delay. By removing timelines, deemed assent, and meaningful judicial oversight, the court has widened the scope for executive overreach. For opposition-ruled states already experiencing stalled bills, this verdict risks turning constitutional checks into constitutional loopholes. The decision, though couched in constitutional neutrality, tilts the balance against the spirit of cooperative federalism.